The central theme of the observation stage is being curious and slowing down enough to ask questions of the text you're reading. And the perfect place to record those questions is with the Notes tool. In this video, you'll learn how to record your observations using the Notes tool as you study the Bible inductively. The Notes tool allows you to record your thoughts as you study, organize those thoughts into custom notebooks, and then recall what you've learned with faceted searching. You can open the Notes tool from the Tools menu by clicking Tools and then Notes. If the Notes tool isn't already pinned to the top, simply begin typing Notes in the Tools search box and click Notes when it appears. You'll notice that the highlights you've made are stored here. But where highlights call out a section of text, notes contain your written content. To create a new note on our passage, the simplest way is to select a range of text and click the Add Note icon in the selection menu. But you can also select a range of text in the passage and click the drop-down arrow beside New Note in the Notes panel and select New Note on selected text. Regardless of which method you choose, a new pane will appear in the Notes tool where you can type the content of your note. The formatting toolbar allows you to format your note in a variety of ways. Use these notes to record questions that arise naturally while you read. For example, what do you wonder about? What do you notice? I selected the text where he had been brought up. What do the people in Nazareth remember of Jesus? What was he like so they're surprised that Joseph's son is proclaiming this message? Do they remember the strange circumstances surrounding his birth? Some other items to note here may include: who are the characters in the passage? Who was the writer? Who was this written to? What kind of literature does this passage contain? Narrative, prophecy, sermon, poetry? What's the logic of the narrative? How does the story fit together? When in Jesus' ministry does this take place? And what events surround it? Where does this story take place? How does the setting affect the narrative? Why does Jesus say what he does? Why does Luke tell us this story? I note that this text begins with the setting, and he came to Nazareth, with the added clarification that this is where he had been brought up. This points to a whole history leading up to this point and brings up a host of questions. Where was Nazareth compared to the major cities in Israel? And how many people in attendance knew Jesus? When I add a note following the directions above, this creates a note anchored to the text of the ESV. Next, I ask what Jesus proclaims about himself. We see in verse 18 that the Spirit of the Lord is upon him. The Spirit has anointed Jesus to proclaim good news to the poor, liberty to the captives, recovering of sight to the blind. Further, he has been anointed to set at liberty those who are oppressed and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. What is the year of the Lord's favor? It seems to be referring to something in particular, but what is it? Is there more to this passage that Jesus does not read? If so, is that significant? Do you think those who read this narrative would have understood why Jesus' audience wanted to kill him? Why does Luke tell us this story out of so many he could no doubt relate? As you can see, this passage has raised a great deal of questions, and we can turn to other resources in the library to find some answers. Let's start by opening the Lexum Bible Dictionary. Simply enter LBD in the Go box and click Open the Lexum Bible Dictionary in the drop-down menu. To find where this resource discusses the Gospel of Luke, type Luke in the search box, then click Luke Gospel of in the drop-down menu. The Lexum Bible Dictionary provides an introduction to Luke's Gospel, along with an outline of its contents. According to this resource, Luke is the longest Gospel, an historical narrative. It was attributed to the Gentile physician Luke by the early church. The general overview also notes that one of the Gospel's purposes is calling its readers to a life-changing commitment to Jesus, the Son of God. click the link to Son of God to read about what this means. When you're done reading, click the back arrow to return to the entry on Luke's Gospel. Now we have some answers to our questions who and what. Luke was a Gentile physician and occasional traveling companion of the Apostle Paul. This Gospel is an historical narrative calling readers to Jesus. From the outline of Luke, we can find more answers to our questions. Our passage fits within the early ministry of Jesus, a period where Jesus displays his unique power and authority. Scroll down to read more about Luke as the writer and Theophilus as the recipient. Create new notes as you find answers to your questions. These notes can all be anchored to the biblical text. To organize your notes on Luke 4:16-30, create a notebook. In the Notes tool, click the menu icon, then click the Notebooks icon. Click the plus icon to create a new notebook and enter Luke 4:16-30 as its name, or whatever label you prefer. Select all the notes and highlights you've made by clicking the first note, holding down the Shift key, then clicking the final note. This selects the first and last note and everything in between. Then click the Set Notebook button and choose the new notebook you created. Next, let's open the Faith Life Study Bible by typing FSB in the Go box, then clicking Open Faith Life Study Bible from the drop-down menu. Scroll down to see notes on the verses in this passage. Here we can see which passages from Isaiah Jesus read and what the implications of his reading are. We find a link to a chart in the FSB detailing Jesus' fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy, in addition to a host of contextual information. We learn more about Zarephath and Elijah, Naaman the Syrian, the location of Sidon, and more. This supplies another answer to one of our questions from earlier. In Luke 4:28, the crowd tries to kill Jesus, and we see here that they're filled with anger because Jesus spoke of Gentiles, non-Jews, receiving God's aid while Israel had to suffer. We'll add a note on this passage to our notebook. Now, if we want to learn more about the story's setting, the city of Nazareth, and the geographical context, type Factbook in the Go box and click Open Factbook in the drop-down menu. Scroll through the article. If you like, you can click any of the links in the Factbook to learn more, making sure to save the notes and highlights you make in these other resources to our notebook on Luke 4:16-30. As you can see, the Notes tool allows you to keep track of both the questions you have about a passage and the answers you find in your Logos resources. And remember, as I mentioned in an earlier video, you can hide your notes and highlights with just a few clicks in the Visual Filters menu. Now that you have all of these tools and resources open, you may want to save the current layout to use again later. To do this, click the Layouts button on the menu bar, then click the option to Save as Named Layout for the layout at the top of the list, and give it a name. Now, anytime you're working in Logos, you can open the Layouts menu and find this exact collection of tools and resources stored in the Saved Layouts section.